I'm Ann Charles.
I'm Linda Quinlan.
I'm Keith Ghostland, and welcome to All Things LGBTQ. We survived the flood.
So far.
We are taping at Orca Media in Montpelier, Vermont, which we recognize as being unceded indigenous land, or maybe today we're the undiscovered continent of Atlantis.
Swampy weather.
So with that,
Yes, I have.
exotic places.
Well, let's start with the world. The Women's World Cup is going to permit armbands highlighting a range of social causes. Remember the big fight about the armbands? Now they're trying to alleviate it, and they've given, you can use a range of social causes. And
Black Lives Matter or Rainbow.
No LGBTQ.
No?
There are 8 options. Football unites the world, peace and justice, end hunger. There's a gender one, but no LGBTQ armband option. So, remember FIFA, the penalizing of armbands in Qatar in 2022. So that's something going on there. And now I'd like to go directly to my favorite story of the evening.
I'm scared.
Well, no. It's macaque monkeys who frequently have gay sex. And I had to look up how to pronounce macaque. So if you want to use the word, it's macaque. And there are many kinds, including rhesus macaque and Japanese macaques. But let me tell you a little bit of, let me show you a picture of 2 macaques who are entwined in an affectionate embrace. Male monkeys, and I'm going to report at length on this if you don't mind. Male monkeys frequently engage in same-sex mounting, and in some cases more frequently than they have sex with females. Same-sex sexual behavior, SSB, in rhesus macaques appears to be extremely common and even improves the reproductive output of the population. This is according to a study published in London, so that's why I'm taking the story. The authors found that of a group of 236 rhesus macaques, 72% of the males engaged in same-sex mounting with other males, compared to 46% that attempted to mount females. 2 rhesus macaques are holding each other in the picture that I have before you now. Researchers have found that 72% of male rhesus macaques engaged in same-sex mounting compared to 46% that attempted to mount females. I just said that, so embedded in your memory. We looked around at 250 males, and 72% of those engaged in same-sex mounting. This is a third point that I'm making of the same
They're displacing our penguins.
Well, most of them were bisexual, said the person who did this study. He's co-author of the paper and director of the Georgina Mace Center for the Living Planet at Imperial College London. In the paper, the authors described how they studied these 236 males within a colony of 1,700 rhesus macaques living in the wild on the island of Cayo Santiago in Puerto Rico, and recorded all attempts at sexual mounting. They found that the males had sexual contact with each other, and they were more likely to back each other up in conflicts if they were having sex with each other, showing that same-sex behavior was strongly correlated with coalitionary bonds. This behavior was more common in males than rhesus macaques, but in another related species, the Japanese macaques, same-sex sexual behavior is more common in females. So lesbian macaques. There's a wide range of other species that have been open to copulate with members of the same sex, from albatrosses and dolphins to bisons and walruses. One study on giraffes found that up to 94% of observed mounting incidents were between 2 males. The authors also found that same-sex behavior was passed on from generation to generation, as pedigree data revealed that the behavior was 6.4% heritable. This means that the trait is able to be acted upon by natural selection and therefore evolved into existence rather than just being random. Same-sex sexual behavior is widespread in vertebrates, but our case study is unique because we had access to a pedigree dating back from the 1950s, so we were able to demonstrate for the first time in non-human vertebrates that it was heritable to a degree. That is, same-sex sexual behavior has a genetic basis in these monkeys. This is therefore the first evidence of a genetic link to same-sex behavior in non-human primates. Why is this important? Because
We're next.
well, yeah, the so-called Darwinian paradox that defies nature and that same-sex behavior defies nature and evolution is rendered false by these findings.
Exactly.
The authors said they found that being a mounter or a mountee is also heritable. They added in these roles that these roles did not correlate in any way with the social position of the males within the group. The authors also found that same-sex behavior may be beneficial to the reproductive output of the group rather than resulting in fewer offspring. We found a positive trend between the amount of same-sex socio-sexual behavior and the number of offspring at population level, albeit not significant. We found that male sexual partnerships significantly predicted coalitionary partnerships. So we believe that this in turn gave them an advantage and increased access to siring females. I'm not sure that I understand that. Maybe you can explain to me over dinner, but let's continue. The authors do urge against extrapolating their results across other species. However, they say that this study challenges the idea that same-sex behavior is rare in animals or aberrant behavior. These results show that it can evolve adaptively in populations and improve the evolutionary fitness of the population. Couple more paragraphs. Unfortunately, there's still a belief amongst some people that same-sex behavior is unnatural. And some countries still sadly enforce the death penalty for homosexuality, the author of this study said in a statement. Our research shows that same-sex behavior is in fact widespread amongst non-human animals. They don't even mention the penguins. Our mission is to advance scientific understanding of same-sex behavior.
Those are birds.
Or the birds are not mentioned. Well, albatrosses.
Oh, yeah.
Including exploring the benefits it brings to nature and within animal societies. Amongst the macaques we looked at in this study, more than 2/3 displayed same-sex behavior, and this behavior strengthened the bonds within the community.
Nice.
Very informative.
Very.
And we will talk over dinner.
Keith will explain some things, maybe. All right. On to Europe. Let me show you a picture before you of Rieke Valerie Collet, who was named Miss Netherlands in a historic first. The finalists will compete in the Miss Universe pageant, and she is a 22-year-old transgender woman.
Good. We're going to have to move on in a few minutes.
She was selected as Miss Netherlands and will represent the country at the 72nd Miss Universe pageant. It's going to take place in El Salvador later this year. She's Dutch Moluccan, which is a part of Eastern Indonesia, and a model and an actress. Should we?
Well, I think we should move on now, and then
Okay,
we'll get back to you.
I do have a clip.
Okay.
Want to see it now?
Okay.
Okay. It's from Austria. It's called...
Is it a movie clip?
It is, Eismeyer. Let me show you the plot, tell you the plot. Sergeant Major Eismeyer, the toughest training officer in the Austrian armed forces, has a secret life he carefully hides from public view. He is homosexual. When he falls in love with a recruit, his artificial heteronormative existence is shaken to the core. To a man like Eismeyer, A gay relationship cannot be
Didn't we do this?
reconciled with the traditional understanding of what a soldier should be. Will he preserve his image as a tough-as-nails man's man, or follow his heart? Is there some way to do both? This is based on real events, so now let's take a look at a clip from Eismeyer.
So, ich sage das jetzt nur ein einziges Mal. Die nächsten 6 Monate werden hart. Aber ihr seid hier bei der Crème de la Crème.
Das ist ein kompletter Psychopath.
Noch einen Fehler und ihre Eltern kriegen einen Brief, wo drinnen steht, fürs Vaterland gefallen.
Wegen so Schleifertypen wie Ihnen will keiner mehr zum Bundesheer.
Wer sich an die Regeln hält, hat nichts zu befürchten. 20.
Wieso?
40.
Was hat denn das?
60. Sag einmal, kapierst du nicht, dass du die Pappen halten sollst? 60 Liegestütze. Aufstehen. Wenn Sie schwer vom Begriff Rekrut, Schusch?
Herr Vizeleutnant, Rekrut Verlag meldet, mein Name ist Verlag.
Bist du intelligenter, Schusch?
Jawohl, Herr Vizeleutnant.
Was wird denn das?
Ein Familienporträt.
Nein, das sind Monster.
Sie wollen sich verpflichten lassen.
Jawohl, Herr Vizeleutnant.
Warum?
Fragen Sie, weil ich ein Schusch bin oder weil ich schwul bin?
Sie bewegen sich auf einem Minenfeld.
Wo warst du?
Du kannst es. Komm jetzt.
Wenn Sie erfrieren, dann bringe ich Sie um,
Die Welt funktioniert nicht so, wie dein schwules Hirn sich das vorstellt. Willst du das nicht checken oder bist du zu blöd, das zu checken?
Very interesting.
The DVD is being heavily promoted on the gay men's film sites right now.
That is very good. And let me tell you, I misled you when we talked about Blue Jean, the lesbian film that I said was on YouTube. It is not. It's playing at the Savoy, however. So thank you.
I thought that movie was very slow, but some of my friends who went with us did not think that, but
I liked it.
I liked it okay. All right, so we will go on to, I like dinner better. The actor Jeffrey Carlson played the transgender character on the daytime TV series All My Children, if any of you have watched All My Children. And he also appeared on Broadway and in films, and he died at 48.
Wow, of what?
I don't know. But he was very popular on All My Children. I watched Guiding Light, but that went out of business. A record number of bills aimed at restricting the rights of LGBTQ people have become law in the past 3 years, but the majority of those have faced legal challenges that haven't held up in court. According to an NBC News analysis, legal experts in the American Civil Liberties Union, which has filed legal challenges against some of these laws. Just this year, state representatives introduced 491 bills aimed at restricting LGBT rights, with 77 of them becoming law, according to the ACLU. The majority of bills proposed and passed focus on limiting the ability of transgender youth to receive gender transition care and play school sports. In the past year, lawmakers in at least 16 states also introduced bills to restrict drag performances.
Yeah, I mean, they're using the old tactic of we're groomers, we're going after our youth, we must protect them.
You know, but sexualizing your little daughters to go into their little beauty pageants is not grooming and
That's
sexualizing
not
them.
the same.
I know. A U.S. appeals court has allowed Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming health care for minors to go into effect. The law bans doctors from providing puberty blockers and hormone therapy to anyone under the age of 18. It also forces young people who are already receiving gender-affirming care to end their treatment as of March 31st, 2024. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, Republican, announced that he and 6 other state attorney generals have sent a letter advising Target that their pride display could violate state laws. The letter accuses Target of violating laws that protect children from harmful content meant to sexualize them and prohibit gender transitions of children. When Sub Radio put out a video in late June to celebrate Pride and throw shade at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican of Florida, it seemed unlikely that the tune would still be going on strong in July. After all, that's not just how the internet typically works. So here is a video of this group, Sub Radio, who wrote this song for Ron DeSantis. So I hope you enjoy it.
When I was in college, my roommate took me into the city, the hottest day in June. He said, bro, when we grow up, would you be a fire-eating drag queen, a cop with assless chaps? He said, will you defeat them, the fascists, the bigots and the assholes, the plans that they have made? Because one day I'll leave you a crop top and several bags of glitter to join the Pride Parade.
And lesbian soccer legend Megan Rapinoe said at a press conference Saturday that she plans to retire at the end of 2023, which means the upcoming World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, which starts later this month, will be her last one. They will really miss her.
Yeah.
Oh.
I wonder which armband she'll wear.
Yeah.
I'd like to wear all 8 and then add a few of my own.
A clothing optional Florida resort catering to gay and bisexual men must open all areas to women, according to a June 30th ruling from a judge on the Florida Commission on Human Relations and reported on TV. The decision, which overruled a previous ruling stating the resort did not discriminate, affects Key West's New Orleans house, though it's not binding until the full commission weighs in. The resort is one of at least 2 nude resorts challenged by Amita Chantre, a 30-year-old cisgender woman who identifies as part of the LGBTQ community. She also filed a complaint against Key West Island House Resort, claiming she wasn't allowed to rent a room there because she doesn't identify as male. Island House attorneys dispute that, saying she attended a 2022 Pride party at the resort and was very disruptive. She allegedly left flyers around the resort saying it discriminated against women, and then told the staff she planned to sue the resort. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. And on a very sad note, Dr. Susan Love, a physician who took an iconoclastic approach to the detection and treatment of breast cancer, has died at age 75. Love, who was out as a lesbian throughout her high-profile career, died Sunday at her Los Angeles home after a reoccurrence of leukemia. The New York Times reports Love was skeptical about mastectomy, the removal of a breast as a cancer treatment, saying that whenever possible, surgeons should remove only the cancerous lump and follow up with radiation. Wanting to keep your breast is not about vanity, she said once. It's about being intact as a person. She was really very, very, very important.
She wrote Dr. Susan Love's breast book, I think.
Yeah.
It was a bestseller in certain circles.
Afro-Latina transgender woman Chanel Perez Ortiz, 29, was shot to death on June 25th in Carolina, Puerto Rico. Her body was found along a highway behind a university campus. Local media reports she had multiple bullet wounds.
Yeah.
Police in the hamlet of Port Washington, New York, arrested a man on Wednesday, on hate crime charges for an incident that took place last week. Police say that Matthew Rawlinson, 26, walked up and threw a cup of hot coffee at the chest of a 21-year-old man outside a Starbucks on Saturday, July 1st. Police also say Rawlinson yelled an anti-gay slur at the victim before the attack, saying there was zero tolerance for hate crime in their community. So, we'll see. And I don't have much information about this, but an 18-year-old transgender man has been found dead in South Carolina. And for my last story for now, a Popeyes franchise in is it Wilkes-Barre or Bear? Wilkes-Barre Township, Pennsylvania, has been fined after a former employee said he was harassed and terminated because of his sexual orientation. The Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission ordered the restaurant to pay the employee, Carl Roden, $48,000 for failing to provide a workplace free from harassment and discrimination based on sexual orientation, according to a news release. So, there you go.
Pennsylvania. I'm shocked.
I used to watch The Secret Storm, speaking of soap operas.
I watched Guiding Light.
As the world turns, who knows? Okay, so this trivia is a holdover from Pride Month, and when I say it, you'll understand why I wanted to put it out there. Vermont has consistently been a leader in recognizing and working towards equity and inclusion. This has been ongoing work. When was the first time that Vermont included sexual orientation or gender identity in our legislation? And Anne got part of it, so.
You did?
I got the date. I got the year.
Well, that's good.
We were, okay, so looking at events, Rainbow Umbrella, the women's discussion group is on a hiatus for the summer,
right.
But the book discussion group is still ongoing.
That's right.
Okay.
Now we're reading In Thrall by Jane DeLynn from 1982.
Ooh. Okay.
A classic.
So Saturday, July 15th, 11 a.m., come to the Elmore State Park, where you may hear the Wicked Woman Award winner read some of her poetry.
Yes, please join us. It should be fun.
Linda doesn't want to be alone in the woods.
No.
So on that theme, this is sponsored by the Vermont Humanities Council. They have announced their 2023 book. And I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis because someone may be doing a more in-depth interview with the author. So this was what the Humanities Council put out. For the 21st year of Vermont Reads, I didn't realize they'd been doing this that long, we invite Vermont communities to plan projects centered around Last Night at the Telegraph Club and its themes of self-acceptance, familia and cultural ties, U.S.-China relations, LGBTQ+ and feminist history, McCarthyism, xenophobia, music of the 1940s and 50s, so that should give you the sort of aura background, and the Asian American experience among others. And this started July 1st. And if the Humanities Council is open, you could get a copy of the book.
And our interview is going to occur closer to the visit of the author, which is going to be next March or May.
Oh, okay. I didn't
we have
realize
time
it was
to
that
read the
far
book.
out.
Yep.
So, did you see this notice? The Samara Foundation, which is the LGBTQ component of the Vermont Community Foundation, they're taking applications from nonprofits or community groups for up to $5,000. And you can submit it anytime before August 31st. And what they're looking at funding is general organizational support, project-specific support, emergent support for organization unplanned needs, and sponsorship of queer events. I can see cogs. You and I are going to be in bad shape. Their priorities: queer and trans-led projects and organizations, projects that center are led by and or prioritize BIPOC or trans Vermonters, elders and youth, queers living with a disability, work that is harm reduction, projects meaningfully working beyond Chittenden County,
Hooray.
smaller budget projects and long-term projects.
Wow.
And also via VSAC, Samara Foundation also makes scholarships available for LGBTQ plus youth, but that's a separate process.
You have to have a
because
501, whatever.
this said nonprofits or community groups.
Oh.
So that might be worth exploring.
Yeah.
White River Junction, they're the last holdout for our Pride Day, other than September. Saturday, July 29th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Main Street Museum in White River
How
Junction.
come so late? They were canceled?
I saw your eyes rolling back in your head when I started reading that whole list when we were getting into June. I think they didn't want to compete with everybody else. And as I recall, they have been a later event the previous year that they have done this. So, and they're going to have vendors, tables, organizations, and they say it's a great place to meet new friends.
All right.
And if it's Thursday, there must be a pop-up happy hour happening someplace in Vermont. Compliments of out in the 802, St. Albans, St. Johnsbury, or Burlington, but they've now got some competition. There is a new pop-up in the Upper Valley, White River Junction, New Hampshire, that area, that's being started by Aaron Almazah, who moved here from San Francisco and said, why am I having to drive to Montpelier or Burlington for a queer event? So
Good.
it's only accessible via Instagram because he said there are hate groups out there. If we publicize this too far in advance, we will become a target. Keep that in mind when I talk about stories. So you can go onto the Instagram
I don't
account.
have Instagram.
You could
don't
follow it. They announce it. Let me tell you, they announce it 24 hours in advance. The bar does not know that they've been designated, and people just show up. This is the true takeover that we remember from
Yes.
our youth. And he said that they only have one rule: be polite, be patient, and tip well.
Yeah.
I think as soon as the bars hear the tip well, they'll all be saying, don't you want to come here? Rutland Plus, we haven't talked about them in a while. This is the LGBTQ plus component of social tinkering. They do monthly social events just so that the greater members of the community can come together, meet each other, just have some relaxed time. And out in the open in Brattleboro, on Saturday, August 12th, we'll be doing one of their rural summits in Monroe, Maine. And you could go onto their website to get more information. So that's what I have for now. So
Time for me?
Well,
Get on a roll, girl.
Okay, I may just have to do headlines for a lot of this.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of material. Let's continue in Europe, and I've included a lot of countries that could be Asia in this, but that are both. So let's start with Greece, where the Prime Minister promises to legalize same-sex marriage. So Greece is already ranked as one of the most LGBTQ-friendly countries in Europe, and so they're moving to legalize same-sex marriage. Part of it is this sympathetic Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis. A pride event in Georgia, and this Georgia is both Europe and Asia, was evacuated as far-right protesters stormed the site. And the event was evacuated, and the protesters say the police refused to protect them. Hundreds of counter-protesters stormed the site, and it's very difficult there in Georgia. And my guess, I side with the activists. I don't think the police. Georgia wants to join the EU, but Brussels said, "Look, you better get your act together."
Yeah.
Your ties with Russia and your support of the war in Ukraine will prevent that. So this is a creepy story, a hate crime. A teen pleads guilty in an attack on a Dublin lesbian couple. And I decided not to show you the picture of the victims. The boy grew enraged when he saw the couple kissing and cuddling at a bus stop. He's pleaded guilty. He's going to be sentenced as a juvenile. The 16-year-old boy, whose name cannot be released, admitted to attacking Robin Dean, 22, and her partner Kate McCabe in broad daylight on May 16th opposite St. Patrick's College in Dublin. He was 15 when he attacked them. He was walking with an older man. He grew enraged at the sight of the women. He called them two fucking dykes before hitting McCabe with a closed fist punch. He continued yelling as he punched her repeatedly, and when her partner Jean tried to intervene, he turned his focus on her and struck her with a flurry of punches to her face and head. So a GoFundMe page has been set up, although it raised £13,000 in a single day, and the couple thanked the public.
You wouldn't think that about Ireland, would you?
During that testimony, the court heard the teen suffered a traumatic family life due to drug and alcohol abuse of his parents.
Where was the older guy? Why didn't the older guy step in and stop this?
Right.
He should be charged, too.
So Russia has targeted the LGBTQ plus community with mental health directive. This is no surprise. He has directed sexologists to help gay folks overcome what he calls the mental disorder.
Put him in the gulag.
Of same-sexual attraction. No, he's got a special clinic. Enough about that. Czech lawmakers give the first nod to a same-sex marriage bill. This is good, but opposition is ahead.
Yeah.
The Czech Republic, an EU member for almost 2 decades, currently allows registered partnerships for same-sex couples, a status that does not let them adopt children, jointly own property, or receive widow or widower's pensions. So the Parliament's lower house gave an initial approval to a bill to allow same-sex marriage, though conservative lawmakers are going to make trouble. Lithuania defies counter-protests and has a pride march that suggests a slow march to equality. The small Baltic states LGBTQ community still faces serious problems. Many report experiencing legal and social discrimination with negative attitudes toward homosexuality firmly entrenched in the country's majority Catholic population.
We have about 1 more minute. or so.
Well, I have many more, many
I
more. I have
know.
all of Asia.
I know.
All right. May I just, and I have pictures. Okay, let me just do the headlines.
Okay.
Okay. Asia. In the Philippines, a survey shows growing support for gays and lesbians. And let me show you a picture of a big tie-in in the Philippines to protest the restrictive, repressive measures. All these couples got married. I believe there were 39 of them. Same-sex couples, 29 same-sex couples tied the knot in a mass wedding ceremony organized by an LGBT group in the country. Let's look at a picture now of Philippine first transgender member of Congress. Her name is Geraldine Roman. There's her picture, campaigning, and she won. She comes from a political family. Her mother was a representative too. Page 2 of my headlines.
I'm missing.
All right, just a few more headlines. The Supreme Court of Nepal orders registration of marriages for same-sex couples. This is good news. Things are moving along in Nepal. I have one more. This is another awful story. Hong Kong murders prompted discussion over reporting on LGBTQ issues. Now, I have a picture before you of Fong Hui Tung, 22, and Lau Kai Hei, 26, and they were in a shopping mall. And all of a sudden, this guy came over and knifed them, started knifing one of them, and when her partner tried to defend her, knifed her too, and they both died.
Oh, God.
And now there's a discussion of, because apparently the fact that they were lovers has been totally suppressed in the media.
Really?
And so people are saying, come on, it's not, because the assailant was mentally ill, and, you know, so everybody's saying it was random, but, you know, gender scholar is saying, no, you know, say that they're lesbians because it's important that this be included. Maybe it is a hate crime, maybe it wasn't. And then finally, bad news from Africa. Netflix has stopped streaming LGBTQ specific movies in Kenya. So they struck a deal with the Kenya film people. And
Oh, that's nice.
Kenya and
Are we
Egypt.
surprised?
Kenya and Egypt have the highest number of Netflix subscriptions in Africa. Egypt's media regulator in September warned the streaming platform that Disney Plus and Disney Plus against broadcasting LGBTQ-specific movies because it breached societal values, and then we know about what's going on in Uganda.
There you go.
End of my stories.
Well, I have a little celebrity gossip.
Oh, good.
Gloria Carter, mother of rapper and business mogul Jay-Z, married her longtime partner Roxanne Wilshire over the weekend. The wedding took place Sunday night in the famous Tribeca neighborhood of New York City. The ceremony was attended by friends, family, and a host of celebrity guests. Among them, Tyler Perry, Kelly Rowland, Corey Gamble, and Robin Roberts. And in Louisiana, the Democratic Governor John Bell Edwards has he's a moderate Democrat, but he's having a real uphill battle against trying to keep all these anti-LGBTQ bills at bay. You know, he keeps vetoing them, but they have a supermajority, so they just override all his vetoes. But, you know, it's a good thing that he's doing it and that he's there. And Ann will probably want to add to this, but there's this very sad death of Minnie Bruce Pratt, the esteemed poet, lesbian, and feminist activist and longtime partner of trans activist Leslie Feinberg, who wrote Stone Butch Blues, has died. Pratt, a native from Alabama, published 8 collections of poetry, Crime Against Nature, which focused on her experience as a lesbian raising sons. The Academy of American Poets chose it in 1989 as its Lamont Poetry Selection, an honor bestowed annually for the best second full-length book of poetry by a U.S. author. My adult life has been an exhilarating struggle to resist military and oppressive categories that ruling status quo places on us, and to live triumphantly the identities and complexities that we feel to be true for ourselves, Pratt said. And my life and Leslie's flowered together. I gained immeasurable in my understanding of what that struggle, in my understanding of how we live and our sexualities, sex, identities, and gender expression, Pratt said. And Feinberg were together from 1992 until Feinberg's death in 2014.
Do you have a picture of her?
No.
Okay, well, we can show a picture.
Yeah.
I would just add that she was finishing a memoir of her life with Leslie Feinberg and suddenly took ill and died 2 weeks later. And her sons, she lost her custody of her sons because of homophobia. And her most recent collection of poetry was called Magnified, and it was award-winning. And she lived in Syracuse and was a staunch activist for the working class. It's a terrible loss.
Yeah.
76, age 76.
Well, we seem to be losing people quite a lot these days, which is really sad. And I have a movie clip. Kristen Lovell and Zachary Drucker's The Stroll is a riveting documentary about transgender women of color during the 1990s and early 2000s, engaging in sex work in an area known as The Stroll in the meatpacking district of Lower Manhattan. It's a story of despair, sisterhood, and triumph. From the start, this film reveals itself to be by someone from that community, reclaiming their own narrative. A fact the movie reveals as we cleverly cut back and forth from Kristen in the editing room. From both a technical and political standpoint, the film is shot beautifully and well-paced. With only an hour and 25 minutes of runtime, it makes the audience want to see more. We fall in love with this group of women and want them to win more and more. So here is the clip of that movie, and it is on HBO, because I know someone was going to ask me.
Do you remember when we used to walk down here and all the neighbors used to stare at us and we used to be
and we would just be
one way. They would look at us like we were circus freaks, but you could tell they enjoyed it.
The minute I got off on 14th Street, you could hear the clickety-clack of the hills.
The life, the light, the shadows.
We called 14th Street The Stroll, and that was our turf.
Some people choose sex work because they want to. Being a trans woman in the 80s, a lot of us did not have a choice.
People were not hiring people that looked like me.
Trans life in general, it was difficult. I wanted to make people understand the reality of our lives through storytelling.
The one issue today that obsesses New Yorkers: crime.
The trannies were out on the street 24/7. It was really a very bad situation.
I mean, they think I'm out here to murder people instead of have sex with them for money.
We don't know who's who. You know, everybody's a client.
I actually gave fellatio to a man who was a cop. And after I was done doing his deed, he arrested me.
Whether it was from the police or the John, there was a lot of violence.
I almost got killed by a John who dragged me for half a block in his car.
We were on the front line with the gay and lesbian community, but you're not doing anything to help me from getting attacked. We knew we were freaks to them.
I can't even believe it. It's like the things we had to do.
The trans community has been in survival mode forever. It's important that we all get an opportunity to
thrive.
We fought to be where we are.
The system never gave us resources. We created the resources.
We have always been last. That's not gonna happen anymore.
You owe it to every trans woman before you and everyone after you to keep pushing.
We were pushed out of the neighborhood years ago. I was determined to make a film about the stroll before we're gone.
Making TikToks?
No.
No, we're talking about our lives out here before this became this.
I remember that.
Oh! He said, I remember that. I'm sure you do. What's your name?
You still got it.
And Sally Ride, America's first woman in space, stands tall on the grounds of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum in California, where the statue of her was unveiled Tuesday as a part of an Independence Day celebration. Members of the Ride family, including her 99-year-old mother, Joyce, helped to reveal the larger-than-life tribute, which is backdropped by the rolling hills of Simi Valley and the entrance to the library's outdoor Peace Palace. Now, people said it was ugly, a statue. I don't know.
It's I think it was a bronze.
But
do you have a picture of it?
No, because someone said, you know, it was really ugly. I didn't. The picture I saw online couldn't really see very well, but she's standing there in her astronaut outfit, I think holding...
The globe?
No, the Challenger that she was on. So I don't know, but no, I didn't have a picture. And just quickly, North Carolina, there's two stories from North Carolina. Roy Cooper, a Democrat, vetoed three anti-LGBTQ bills yesterday in defiance of veto-proof Republican majorities in the state legislature. Cooper announced he vetoed HB 575, Fairness in Women's Sports Act, which requires the use of biological sex at birth to determine participation in middle and high school and college athletes in the state. He also vetoed a Parents' Bill of Rights and a couple of transgender bills and HB 808, Gender Transition Minors, bans general affirming medical care for minors. Good for you, Governor. He's vetoed every one, but it has been overridden. And the last story from North Carolina comes from the American people need to read more writings and quotations by Adolf Hitler, Mao Zedong, and Joseph Stalin. That's according to North Carolina's political Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who spoke in front of a crowd during a Moms for Liberty convention in Philadelphia last week. According to him, dictators like Hitler and Mao are being taken out of context, and their work needs to be reconsidered. On Sunday, Robinson told the audience gathered at Moms for Liberty Blessings at the Liberty Breakfast that instead of automatically criticizing Moms for Liberty for quoting Hitler in their June newsletter, it's time to start reading quotes from homicidal strongmen like Hitler and Stalin at what was effectively a prayer breakfast with a rabbi and other clergy in attendance. Republicans legitimized dictators and Nazis.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So there you go.
Hold on to that thought for a story that's coming right up.
All right, you're up.
But first, these stories are not in the moment now. They happened within the past month, but they're things that we need to talk about. And the first is a well-known BIPOC artist from Montpelier, Toussaint St. Grenade, who, for Pride Month, coordinated a public reading at the Lyndonville Public Library. All are queer voices. And it was advertised on social media, on flyers around town. What Toussaint said is, this is a very simple gathering for anyone to bring a book to read aloud your favorite queer post. Well, when the presentation started, the library staff approached Toussaint to let them know that there was a demonstration occurring outside. And it was evangelical based. They were chanting Toussaint's name and saying, "Prepare to meet your maker." And by agreement between Toussaint and the library staff, they ended the presentation. The people who were in attendance all left. Toussaint was the only person of color there. So it would be very obvious who they were. So the library staff took them in their car to Toussaint's to try and avoid this group out front. But one of them encountered Toussaint later in the day, and it was a woman who approached him saying, "I have something for you," as she reached into her purse. And Toussaint said it was just an absolutely terrifying moment. The library said they've never encountered anything like this before, but this is not going to stop them. We have voices that need to be heard. The Lyndonville police say that they have no active investigation going on, and that's because Toussaint has said they haven't decided if they're going to try and press charges or really report the incident. So without a report, there's really nothing they can do. Our congressional delegation has said, hate should have no place in Vermont. It's disturbing to see homophobia and racism loud and present here in Vermont. And moving on with that, and you're talking about, the promotion of we should be reading these things. Montpelier High School, we had reported about the swastika in the bathroom. What has been revealed since then is that wasn't the first anti-Semitic or homophobic act in the Montpelier High School, that there has been an ongoing problem that both students and parents have reported to faculty, and there has been no action. One of them was following a presentation about the Holocaust, and a chat group was formed that called themselves the Hitler Youth, who went up to LGBTQ plus and known Jewish students yelling slurs at them and salutes. And there has been no action.
There's been no publicity about this either.
Bingo. Now, one of the things sort of in the backdrop, the Vermont Holocaust Memorial, in coordination with the Anti-Defamation League, has been offering training for educators. Guess which is one of the only schools that has not sent an educator for training? What was also
High School.
What was also pointed out is there's only one state in New England that doesn't have a standardized Holocaust studies as part of our education legislation. Could you kind of guess who that is? And we've been working on it for over 9 years. But keeping on that theme of high schools, I want to report on, people knew about the speaker that was invited to the Virgins High School. And it is someone who is coming to talk about their experiences transitioning as a transgender woman and then having to detransition. And it was being done in the high school because they have an auditorium. They offer it out to the public. There is a group called Parents' Rights in Education. Alliance Defending Freedom come to mind?
Yeah.
And there were several parents who live in Virgins who said they're the Vermont Contact and affiliates. We feel people should hear what the speaker has to say. And the attorney representing the school said, you offer this space out to the public. You can't just say no because of the topic.
Right.
So what ended up happening, and the presentation was via Zoom. So there were maybe 60 people who attended the presentation. There was a counter demonstration outside that had over 350 people attending. Good. And from people who were there who reported back to me, they said that what we should hear is that the majority of the people who spoke at the open microphone were our youth. And what they were saying to the people in attendance was, thank you for being here. Thank you for not forgetting us. Thank you for supporting us. We need to keep that in mind. And there were two prominent speakers. Christine Hultquist spoke, as did Michael Pichek. On that theme of what's going on in education, both Ann and Linda wanted to make sure I knew about the University of Waterloo in Ontario gender studies program. There was someone who went up to the classroom and clearly, what is going on in here? Gender studies, went in and stabbed the instructor as students tried to leave, stabbed several of the students. The police responded quickly and took the person into custody. And the alleged assailant's statement was, it was done purposely target the subject matter of gender identity and to make a statement. To which Justin Trudeau immediately responded, I want to make this clear. This heinous violence and the hate that fueled it have no place in our country. We must and we will keep working to build a Canada where everyone is welcome to be who they are, to study what they want, and to be safe from violence. So, and since we're running out of time, real quick notice, New Hampshire is poised to pass a ban on panic defense, and the attempt in New Jersey to impose a parental bill of rights on a local level, their attorney general has stepped in and said, I don't think so.
Good.
So it's not happening. Good. So our trivia, first time sexual orientation shows up in Vermont statutes is in 1990, when we passed our first bias and hate crimes bill. Gender identity gets added in 1999 when we looked at that bias and hate crime statute and said, we've got more work to do. So we continue moving forward.
And on that note, remember to resist.